What's up, everybody? Kevin Wagstaff. This week we have Brit and Lance Kaufman, who've been on the podcast before, so you may recognize them. They're great rock stars, a great growth story in a couple years with where they've gotten to. But we also have another couple on, Kalyn and Matt Gibson. So this is unique because I'm curious if the industry will go this way more, if we'll see more companies merging to kind of grow across state lines. So I think I want everyone to listen to it with open eyes and ears and think about this perhaps, whether you're a new inspector or in your first year. This could be a growth hack or a growth strategy to team up. And then also a lot of these small multi-inspector companies, anywhere from 2 to 5 or greater, this could be an opportunity in a way to grow across state lines. So it's very intriguing to me. I really enjoyed the conversation. They're both wonderful couples and wonderful people. And I'm sure they will get their flood of traffic with people reaching out to them to talk about the experience and how it's gone and any learning. So hopefully you enjoy it. And anyone, again, with ideas for guests, you want to be on yourself, reach out to me. I'm happy to chat. So hope everyone's doing well and hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks. But that's amazing that people have been reaching out. Dalen, I don't know if you listened to that episode early on. He was another one that just felt so approachable. And he kind of just was like, oh yeah, here's my phone number, here's my email. And he said he still gets calls and emails like to this day from that episode, which is really cool. But that shows you there's a hunger for everyone wanting to share in this industry, right? Because it's so isolating.
Well, it feels safe, I think, too, when you watch a podcast like this, or you listen to it or you watch it, and you see people doing what not too long ago, where we were doing what they're doing right now. Because we talked on the last podcast where you get on Facebook or you get on some of these, inspector groups, and it's just like poop being flung at each other for no reason. And people don't feel like they can come with a question or a concern without being berated. And so I think that you get these private emails or texts and they're like, I saw your podcast, I have a question, I feel like you could help. And it's an open space. And so we've appreciated the opportunities that have come from it.
I think there's something here, something bigger that we could create too, or some type of, I don't know, groups or like subgroups of these, like-minded people. Because this is near and dear to my heart, because when we were new in the industry, I went to the forums and I got poop flung at me and it was brutal. And I'm like, this makes you feel icky. So I was like, well, you got to create something different here. So, so thanks for doing this again. Let's do intros for everyone. Say they're literally just stumbling into this episode. So Brit and Lance, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm Brit Kaufman. We are headquartered in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I own Forever Home Inspection and Focus Building Inspections. Both my companies use Spectora. And both of our companies are headquartered in Tulsa and serve all of Oklahoma and Iowa. And this is
Lance. You could have just introduced me. That would have been fine too.
This is Lance Kaufman. He is my husband and my business partner. He really does all things with humans. And I do all things with systems and processes. And
that's probably the best.
It's a good way to put it. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
We sharpen each other as iron. Let's say that. So
lots of sharpening.
Lots of sharpening. Always sharpening.
Yep. And Lance is what we call a Spectora OG. He's been around 3 years, maybe at least.
Brit, what's funny is we spoke on it, and I'll quickly remember 3 or 4 years ago when I signed up for Spectora, just because people in Internauchi were like, this is what I use. And I remember getting on it and not even using it to any of the full capabilities. And Brittany one night sat down on it, and I get on there the next day and everything's different. I'm like, what have you done? And she's like, did you know you could automate this? Did you know you could be sending emails? She's like, I'm coming on. And I'm like thank God.
I can get obsessive about things.
Which is funny because I vividly remember that because we emailed and spoke, but you were one of those guys who you started and then I didn't hear from you for months. We didn't hear from you because I was just like, oh, he's just cranking along. He must be doing all right. And then every once in a while you'd pop in and just be like, oh yeah, how do you do this? Or what's this about? Yeah. So it's you were just go off to the races, I think. Well, cool. And Kalyn, am I getting that right? Kalyn and Matt, we'll let you guys give yourselves a proper intro because we've kind of just met. So I want you to do it.
Yes, I think we were Facebook friends before real life friends.
Which is the case more and more nowadays, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm Kalyn Gibson, and this is my husband and business partner, Matt Gibson, and we are clones of Brit and Lance. So we basically do what they do, but in Iowa. So we're based in Ankeny, which is a suburb just north of Des Moines.
Okay. Right on. And I'll let you two kick it off telling the story of how we're even here and how we even met. Because I believe it was an email, right?
From us?
Yeah.
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 Well, so I just kind of give you an idea of how we got into it. I was working in different locations around the country for ops management in one form or another for about 15 years. And I've always running into a wall on leadership. I was always that guy above you that just kind of not where you wanted to be, and so finally I just said, I want to strike out on my own. I want to find something that we can do for ourselves, have a lot more autonomy, and let success or failure ride on us. And so I found home inspections. I'm a research kind of guy. I was doing a lot of research and found home inspections as being a viable option, and kind of brought it to Kalyn, and she was just kind of like, oh, okay.
How much did you all know prior? What was your background or knowledge of kind of the industry and kind of what it takes?
Nothing. Zero.
Okay. So fresh, starting from fresh.
Yep. In fact, the last house I bought, I didn't even go to the inspection.
Right. Which can happen.
Knew nothing about it. And really, I think that was a good thing because I came in with no preconceived notions
True.
of what it should be. And I got certified through ICA, and then joined InterNACHI and went through their process, and tried a couple of the free and cheap report softwares. Found out very quickly that those were not going to work. I mean, just doing test inspections on our house and my in-laws' house, these things are garbage. They're just garbage. And I had seen Spectora floating around in the groups, and like you said, the groups on Facebook can be very deep mud at times. But if there's one good thing that came out of it was finding Spectora. And so we said, you know what, we're going to do it. And we did it. And Kalyn was watching your podcast, right? Isn't that how?
Yeah, the Spectora Spotlight.
Take over on that?
Yeah. So I, very similar to Matt, he initiated the inspection idea. And then as soon as I was on board, I took the ball and ran with that. So I started researching really heavily, and so I'm like, okay, if we're going to use this software, I want to know everything about it. I want to know how we can maximize it and utilize it to our advantage to help grow our business. So, and plus I'm an industry outsider, we're both industry outsiders, and I came from a background in public school teaching for 12 years. And so I knew nothing about running a business or about home inspections. And so I had a lot of learning to do. And so I dug into your podcast, which has been a very valuable, helpful resource for me. In particular, just learning the industry and hearing from other inspectors has been super helpful on this journey. So thank you for that.
Great. Awesome. Love it.
And so I was watching the podcast on where Brit and Lance were on, and there is just something about them that really resonated with me. They came across as you mentioned, very transparent, authentic, and genuine people. Our value systems, just on a personal level, seem to really align quite eerily in a good way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you know that you have found your spouse, it's like, okay, they're the ones.
Yeah, we're meant to be together some way, some fashion, some form. Yeah.
And so I think that's at that point I reached out to you and sent you an email to see or to get their contact information or to see. I think it was to get your opinion because you knew them better to say, hey, do you think that they would be a good fit with us? And
mentorship.
Yeah, for like a mentorship, because we thought, oh wow, they're so far ahead of where we are in such a short period of time. We're like, we want to do that. We want to replicate what they're doing. And so we needed to pick their brain and get into their world. And so that's how all of that came about. And you were very gracious in sending out an introduction email. And then and from there, we started scheduling mentorship, mentee, video calls. And then, one thing led to another, and here we are.
Thank you so much for going to that. Brit and Lance, I want to get to you in a second, but I want to touch on what's so important, I think, that most people just don't do in our industry, which is surrounding themselves with good energy, like-minded people. Was that just natural to you all to say like, oh, that resonates with me, I'm going to reach out? Because not everyone does that. You'd be shocked. Like, I don't get as many emails as I would like for people to say, hey, I need to know this person, even though they're across the country. Yeah,
it can be difficult. I mean, I've been in the business world for a long time, and I've managed some pretty big, successful companies, and not the whole company, but my portion of it. And so to say, oh, I can do this. I don't need somebody else telling me how to run this thing,
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Kalyn came to me and said, hey, you should watch this podcast. You should hear what these people have to say, and maybe this would be a good opportunity. And so when you hear someone that's been in the business for a little bit, and you're able to, like Kalyn said, you're able to see that like-mindedness, then it was like, okay, I do need help. And being able to put a little bit of pride aside and say, you know what, mentorship, this is a good thing. Let's do this. And so surrounding yourself in this industry is difficult, because finding someone local, well, they're going to say, well, you're going to be my competitor.
Right.
I'll give you all my bad ideas. I'm not giving you my good ideas.
Yeah.
So it made a lot of sense. And when your offer, I think it was in the podcast, you said, hey, if you are looking for a mentor, let me know. And that's what kind of spurred the idea. It's like, all right, this could be really good for us. I didn't know it would lead to this, but
yeah,
we thought it'd just be a mentorship program.
Hey, I say this all the time. Where would we be without good women in our lives to take out the ego and pride and then lead us to the right decision? So, all right. So Brit and Lance, so when you got this email, were you just thinking, like, take me back to where you were just thinking, hey, we're just going to have a cool business relationship, maybe give them a few tips here and there? Like, what were you thinking when you got that email?
I'm gonna let her start because I love this story. Go ahead. You got the email first. So what did?
Yeah. So Kevin, you should have warned me about the communication that was going to flood in from across the country and even from Canada. We were just like, I don't know, a bit of warning would have been nice, because then I probably could have prepared myself for that. But I was so busy, but I was also, you're in a position where we were given this opportunity to be on this podcast with you. And so it's not that I felt obligated, but it was almost like I felt like I had to respond to every single thing that came in as a form of gratitude for being on your podcast. And so we did. I responded to every single one that came in. And lots of back and forth communication went on with lots of people. And we had some really cool calls that we were able to be on, and we got some really great ideas, like from what people were doing with their businesses. And so when we got the email from Matt and Kalyn, it was one of many. And, at the beginning, I had no expectation whatsoever, but I responded and we set up a call, and I got off of that call. And I think, was that call in November?
Yeah, it was right for the holidays.
Was that when that call was, you guys?
I think it was early December.
Early
Was it?
December.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember being Saturday morning. Yeah.
So we got off that call and it lasted for, I think, 2 hours. And it was great. And I was in my pajamas and my kids were running around. Their dogs were barking a lot. And so it was just like real people, real talk about business and struggles. And I got off the call and I turned to Lance and I said, out of everybody we've talked to, these folks are different. And I really like them a lot.
Yeah.
And so we had decided not to touch base again until after the holidays. And then it was in the days.
We put a month out.
Yeah.
We gave them some to-dos and we said, in a month, we'll have another call.
Let's check in.
Let's check in a month and kind of see where you guys were.
And you guys
Yeah.
did that. I want to pause real quick. Why did you do that? Because that you can't give everyone a follow-up month call if you have, say, 20 people that
I don't
want to talk to you.
know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they asked. I don't remember if I offered. We didn't have a follow-up call with anybody else.
No.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I was just wondering because there's something either Kalyn and Matt did, or they were very gratuitous, or they just flowed. I don't know. I'm just always curious of what made you just be like, we're gonna stay in touch.
It was
They
easy.
were super students,
Yeah.
I think.
And it was easy to talk to them. I mean, just
Yeah.
sitting there. I remember I was making breakfast and I could hear Brittany talking to them in the kitchen for the first hour and a half until I sat down with them. And it was just like catching up with people that you knew. And it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel awkward. Because we had talking to people. I remember there was a few times I would just be driving in my car and Brittany's like, hey, we're going on a Facebook interview with someone. I'm like, what are you talking about? Some guy out of somewhere wants to talk to us and ask us questions. I'm just like driving, looking at her phone, and he's just,
Yeah.
everything felt really businessy, and this one
Yeah.
didn't really feel that way.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we gave them tasks, and we said, we'll catch you in a month. And then like a week later, Kalyn had finished all their tasks plus more. And then, and I was like, oh, they're serious. Like we did something here. So,
And Britt's probably like, I see a little something in you that reminds me of me, and I'm liking this. Okay.
yes.
Carry on.
Yes.
Yeah, so in the days before the call, I started telling Lance, like I do. So I think I'm gonna ask them if they want to join Forever Home, and just, I mean, they're in the beginning. It's like, well, what they could say no, and then we just keep going the way we're going, and that's fine. And so he was like, I don't know, Brittany. Like every time I have an idea, he's like, I don't know, Britt. Like
Pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. Yeah.
I was like, I'm just gonna do it.
I'm getting used to it now. That's fine.
Yeah.
And so we asked them, and then quickly I found out that I was in over my head, because we had a meeting with the attorney, and he was, like, how are you gonna do this without going to jail? With the Securities Exchange Commission. And I was like, you know what, that's a really good, I hadn't thought of that. Help.
Yeah.
And so they trusted us enough to trust our attorney with things too, and we all worked through it. But they said yes, like, I don't know, what was it, within 2 days we got a yes back from them. So
Yeah, we're still hoping we don't go to jail.
Yeah. It's still up for debate.
It's still, don't worry.
So you guys offered to basically have them come aboard as an Iowa extension or an expansion of the company, right?
yeah, it's a partnership.
And what did were you all shocked? Well, take me back to that moment of when they asked that.
Yeah, so Kalyn had Britt had set up the call with just Kalyn. And I think I was at work. I was doing my full-time job still. And so they had their conversation, and then our kids were at their mom's, so we had a date night that night, and we went out to Ruby Tuesdays or something. And we're sitting down, and I said, okay, well, tell me about your conversation. What happened? And she told me all this stuff. And I mean, just full transparency, I got mad. I was angry. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I'm doing this to strike out on my own and be my own boss. What in the world?
Right.
And I'm fuming, and she's sitting there across from me just going, all right, just, chill. We're at Ruby Tuesdays, calm down. And we went through this whole conversation. It was probably an hour conversation about it. And I'm still just steaming. And she goes, well, what do you think? And I said, well, of course we're going to do it. we'd be stupid not to, but it just ticks me off that we're going to do it. You know? I was just so mad. But there again, it was just the pride of this was, you know, our business, the former business was ours. And now, but I was looking at it through the wrong lens. You know, we have a partnership, and I was looking at it through the lens of now I'm working for somebody again. That's what I didn't want. And Brit Lance has been very good about making that very clear that this is not a boss-employee relationship. This is a partner-partner relationship. So yeah, but that was the initial reaction. It was anger.
What a roller! Yeah, it sounds like a roller coaster of an hour. Of okay, like sorry, let's talk about it and talk about why this could be. So did you guys toss around the pros and cons and kind of like evaluating what you knew?
Yeah, we made a couple lists.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was.
Then it was more than a couple of lists.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's definitely the abbreviated version of everything that happened. But I'm definitely a mega processor, very type A. And so I want to know the big picture and then all of the little details in between. And, you know, I'm that person that goes to the doctor's office and asks, you know, 50 questions, you know, and have the answers to before I leave so I can have all the information and make an informed choice. So with this, it was really interesting because I think we had made up our minds that we were going to do it even prior to having all of those details. Really, one, because it just, there's something supernatural about it that it just felt right and it felt safe. And so we didn't, after, you know, talking him off his ledge, because I was wanting to do it pretty quickly. I knew, like, yes, my intuition told me this was a good thing. These are good people. And this is the direction that I felt in my spirit that we needed to go. So it was just really having those conversations between the two of us and just, you know, talking through some of those doubts or fears or, you know, yeah, what are the cons of, if any, of a situation like this. And so just, yeah, at the end of the day, we decided that it was the pros outweigh the cons for sure. And it's not been a smooth journey because
Never is.
We've had a lot of roadblocks and a lot of challenges. But because of the type of people that we all are, we've been able to overcome those one by one. So that's been a good thing.
I have a follow-up question to that because this isn't typical, which is why I love it. And I think this is maybe an underappreciated or used way to grow for certain companies, and then also to stimulate growth for you all. So what were some of those pros when you thought about the time frame, maybe, or what you learned about how long it takes to grow a solid, sustainable business in this industry?
Well, I think that's it right there. Was that we looked at it as an opportunity to jump 4 years. It was having that background support that has already been through all of this stuff that we were about to go through. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just a time warp, jump ahead, and you know, how could that be a bad thing to have that ability? I think that really was it for us. It was I don't think this would have worked had it not been Lance and Brit, right? I mean, we certainly wouldn't have been as eager to jump into it because there is that mutual sense of familiarity, and we seem to jive very quickly. If you didn't have that sense of, you know, friendship right away, then there would be a lot more struggles. Dave Ramsey says, the only ship that don't sail is a partnership.
Yeah.
I get what he means, but it's not necessarily 100% true. So hopefully this is the exception to that rule from Dave.
Yeah. And it just does, well, like to have, I guess, industry outsiders, as I call them, for lack of a better term, I think that helps there because there's just this fresh perspective and openness to this type of arrangement, right? So like Brit and Lance, like, of course, Brit cooks up stuff and is like, all right, we're doing this, let's go. What then after the attorney meeting? And then kind of once it was like, wow, we're expanding into another state.
I mean, I want to give credit to Brit and Kalyn though, because their efforts that they put forth and their inquisitive minds, I think, are what have found the many roadblocks that have come up, and we've been able to get over them. Because if they were just like, okay, everything's smooth, Lance and Brit have everything under control, they obviously know exactly what's going to happen next. I don't know if we would be where we are now, because every time they would sit down, there'd be another list of things that are like, oh, we need to overcome this. Or like she said, when we sat with our attorney, we're like, I don't even know what that phrase means. What are we about to do? So I'll let her kind of go from the attorney meeting, because there was a lot that came from that.
Yeah, I mean, there were several moments where I felt like I was in over my head. But if you want to grow anything, you have to, sit with those feelings. And you can either allow them to make you feel excited, or allow them to completely overwhelm you and just sort of like shut you down. I won't lie, Kevin, it's been a crazy couple of months, just with all the things that we've had going on, because we have Oklahoma that we're growing, and we have Iowa, and we have the commercial companies, and then we have a lot of other really exciting things that are going on behind the scenes. I can't give any information, but we're going to be on a TV show, which is really cool. And so there have been a lot of really good distractions along the way.
Sure.
But man, I don't recommend it. I'm really glad that we didn't. I'm glad for two things. I'm glad that we didn't do this in a busy season. And I'm so thankful for how Matt and Kalyn have been understanding in the fact that this is our first time down this path, and that we're all learning it together, and not to expect perfection out of us. I think one thing that they've also learned is that, even though we're 4 years ahead of them, we aren't a perfect company.
Mm-hmm.
We might have a lot of systems and processes that on one side of the curtain look really sharp, and then on the back side of the curtain there's still a lot of manual work going on, and we're still, because Kevin, you probably know that everything on the back side of the curtain gets done last, and everything that's on the front side of the curtain is the priority.
Buttoned up. Buttoned up.
Yeah. And so they got a real good look behind the curtain, which, that put us in a really vulnerable place, and it made me feel insecure sometimes along the way. Kalyn is exceptional. I mean, she goes through things with a fine-tooth comb, and she has sharpened and refined so much of what we have, and found mistakes that were latent and I was not aware of in some of our paperwork and some of our online material. And I really appreciate all of that. Each time it came in, I was like, it was sort of like a little dagger though. I was like, oh gosh, and it just was like, it sort of like chips away at what you thought you had already done and completed, and sort of, but it's a good thing that those things are coming to light.
Yeah.
It's an amazing growth, like opportunity. And just the way you describe all that, so refreshing. I think that's why people gravitate towards you. And Mike, my brother, he built all the initial code for Spectora. And so when we're going back in and refactoring it and tearing it down, he always has to gulp and then say, like, you know what? I don't care if I wrote that code. If it's shit, it's shit. We're gonna redo it because it's best for our customers. And he's done so good at modeling that. And it's really cool of you to hear that, like, oh, does that make things better for all of us? Cool. Let's do it. Like, I don't care if I overlooked that or did that, because we all have those things. And I think that's, the humility is so endearing. So I can really appreciate that. And it sounds like you have another world-class operator now kind of on the team with Kalyn that just like communicates, finds out what needs to be done, and does it like that. In our industry, right? Lance is like, it's unheard of. that like have people like this?
Well, and that's, to speak to that, we were getting really good at being able to scale within our state.
Yeah.
Like we're figuring this out. And then we add them to the mix. And now it's almost as if we're tearing it down to the first block and rebuilding it so that we can scale nationally. Because our last conversation was, we have this much percentage of the market share. Next time we talk, we're going to have this much percentage. And we've grown our company 75% probably here in Oklahoma since our last conversation. But now it's like, oh, let's figure out how to scale nationally.
Yeah,
Like-
starting back at square one
Yeah.
in another state.
And I think that's what helps having Matt and Kalyn on is we're not just going to be Iowa and Oklahoma.
Mhm.
We're going to be a group of people that go beyond that pretty soon. So
Kalyn and Matt, was that part of the appeal where you're like, holy crap, these people are ambitious. This is like a rocket ship, then we want to be a part of this. Was there any aspect of that?
Yes, very much. Yeah, it was just realistically, because as I mentioned, since I come from an education background, I'm having to learn everything from scratch. I was created to be a teacher. That's one of my biggest gifts is teaching. Put me in a classroom and I will just shine, right? That's my gift.
I can see that.
So being, having to use basically what feels like the entirely different side of my brain, muscles that have never been exercised in this business arena of learning how a business operates, thinking like a CEO and business owner, interacting with clients. Thank the Lord that I'm a people person, so I at least don't have to refine how to communicate with people. So that part of it is fun and comes naturally. But just the day-to-day grind of just the operations and things. I mean, it's been a huge, very steep learning curve. But luckily, one thing that wherever I lack in intellect, my hard work ethic makes up for it. So thank goodness for that, at least.
Yeah.
That I don't know a lot of things, but with the internet and resources and things, I'm able to dig in and learn what I need to learn. And Brit and Lance have been great. A great support system for us to learn what we need to learn and make Iowa successful. But yeah, there definitely was a huge appeal for, we both looked at each other, and that's something that we talked about when we were making this decision to partner with Forever Home Inspection was, we could be the first really nationally recognized home inspection company, commercial inspection company, and that's not franchised, which is ridiculously exciting. It makes us really giddy just to think about it and talk about it, of that magnitude, and knowing that as we go through this process together, that our values align, and trusting Brit and Lance enough that whoever else that we bring on as partners, that their values are going to align with, the four of us and what we believe as well. And that it's only going to make our team stronger and better. And I was just talking to Brit about this the other day. I said, we were having some issues with our Google page, and Google is great, but they're so massive that I think some of the customer support gets lost.
They have customer support? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to be gracious here.
It's Google. We can trash them. They have a monopoly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's not the best. And so, I told Brit, I asked Brit, I said, can we please, as we grow, never get so far removed from our clients to the point where they can't reach us or have a personal conversation or be able to connect with anyone in our organization, because our clients are our bread and butter, and you know, they're a big why. They're a big reason why we do what we do. So client care is huge. So anyway, that's just kind of a side note to that answer.
Those are some gems there. My audio got funky for a second. Brit and Lance, for anyone considering this route, would you mind sharing a few of those landmines or a few of those, like, obviously the state boundary thing, some of the stuff you talk to your attorney, but anything you can share as to reasons or things to look out for in doing this, or just general learnings really of like working with another team. I imagine, communication is key, but I want to hear some of these other things.
Yeah, I mean, certainly don't chase it for profit's sake alone.
I actually want to jump in. That's a great point. I want to make the distinguishing factor here of like, I think people always think this. They just think first of the revenue and the growth. This seemed to kind of find you. Very big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we built this company with, in mind. We were just talking about this on a call yesterday with Matt and Kalyn about how I can't remember what it was exactly. They had brought up something that they wanted to do, and I said, look, guys, one of the things that we always have to do is when we make decisions for our company, we're making decisions as if we're 10 times the size that we are today. And implementing something that might be a really great idea for the size that we are now, if it can't be scaled and duplicated at 10 times our size, then it has to be a no, even if it's a fantastic idea. And so I would say, I think that the number one mistake that home inspection companies make and that entrepreneurs make is that they don't build their everything in their company, whether it's systems or how they interact with the client. They don't build it in a way that's scalable and easily duplicable from the start. And then if you don't do that from the start, you're never going to be able to duplicate in the way that we have duplicated in terms of across cities and then now across state lines. And, you've never arrived at doing it a perfect way. That would be my second set of advice, is that if you're not always innovating or willing to change, or like your brother willing to just leave, like just abandon something, then you probably don't have what it takes to duplicate, because you have to be wrong a lot.
Right.
And you have to change things a lot, and you can't marry yourself to any one idea or way of doing things, because it will quickly become irrelevant, whether it be by technology or by not being sustainable because of the size that you are. Flexibility. So
yeah,
simplicity and flexibility gets you there, I think, in my opinion anyway.
Oh, that's so good. We could probably go down a rabbit hole on the psychology, like psychological flexibility, because it brings in like your personal baggage, why you get married to ideas and you're inflexible and can't pivot. I have a question around scalability, because when you hear of the biggest companies in the country, a lot of the IEB companies, they're usually centered around big cities, big population centers, right? I believe there's this huge opportunity in the Midwest where you all reside, right? In cities, in these states where there's not a major player, there's nobody that's doing things at a world-class level. Is that the vision? Or tell me a little bit about thinking about the center of the country, because when I think of Iowa, I think like, oh, you guys are going to dominate Iowa. You guys are just going to like take it over, doing things this way.
We are.
Well, we were having a conversation the other day. We were like, what do we know about Iowa? We don't know anything about.
Yeah,
do they have a sports team?
Yeah, they got a couple colleges. Hawkeyes are decent at a few things.
Respectfully, I'm pretty sure I mispronounced Des Moines every single time.
Yes, Des Moines.
Before I got down and sat with them. So
yeah, you mispronounced Kalyn's name and his city where they
God
live.
forgive me.
Times.
Yeah, I apologize.
Everyone mispronounces my name since I've been in kindergarten. No one can say my name right. But you know what? I just go with it.
The world will know your name soon. Don't you worry.
That's true. Everyone knows it now. Kalyn.
Everyone's going to know it now.
I mispronounced it on my first like 3 dates before they corrected me. So.
I've just resigned to the fact that no matter how much I correct people, they're still gonna say it wrong. So whatever.
Thanks, parents.
We
Yeah.
should put the phonetical spelling on the website. And
There you go.
I'll put that in
Well,
the I'll put that in the thumbnail.
Yeah. I think kind of to what you said, we're seeing that we saw in Oklahoma first, where you have, we're in Tulsa. Tulsa's not a small town. It's kind of it's the second biggest town, if you will, in Oklahoma. And so, but we have so much business that comes from the outside suburb type areas, if you will, right? And that's when Brittany was methodically thinking, okay, if we can transplant someone out here or have someone over here, then we're going to pick those things up. Because the only people going out there, we're driving an hour, 2 hours sometimes to go out and do a home inspection. It may not be the busiest schedule every week, but there's a need out there. And so to what you're saying, I certainly believe that the Midwest, these small areas are just there to be captured. And we're on a foot race to be there first. So,
because it sure feels like it's a bigger logistical and operational lift, which is why a lot of people maybe won't do it, which is great. Whereas if you're in Metro Houston, it's like everyone wants to take over Houston. That's easy. You can kind of scale easier, which is what's exciting, is that if you guys are kind of creating this network throughout the Midwest, that could be really powerful.
Yeah, I will say though, to piggyback that, that there are some logistical things that we did not anticipate for building into smaller markets. And I don't know, we were surprised by those difficulties, but I think that we weren't even like anticipating them, which really goes to show that maybe we weren't ready yet for the small towns and just how differently they operate in all ways. I mean, I'm from one of the towns that we've recently tried to put an inspector in, and now we're pulling back from that effort. But even growing up in that city, I was surprised by the fact that people aren't going to the internet to find their home inspector
Right.
or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm just, maybe I left before technology just like took over the way that people are a consumer, but the consumer behaves very differently in small cities. And I was not, I'm good at what I do, and that still popped up and smacked me in a way that I wasn't ready for.
Is it just kind of still the good old Boys and Girls Club, like the handshake, gym down the street's been doing this for 15 years?
And people will continue to give business, and this is not poking at any one person, but people in small towns and small areas will continue to give business to companies that just aren't great because that's always been what's there, right?
Well, yeah, there's a loyalty factor in it, and it's a piece of that good old boy thing that you're talking about. Yeah.
How do you, and this could be for either of you all, how do you envision busting through that in certain ways? And like, I know you said certain towns you pull back from, but there'll be other towns where that dynamic, I'm sure, exists. How do you envision?
We don't want to take business away from anybody that might be in those small towns. But I think coming in and just being really transparent about the fact that it's like, hey, we really want to raise the bar here. All home buyers in this area deserve for there to be a competitor, so that the bar of excellence is higher. And so I think that if we approach it that way, and not in terms of just like exploding into their city and being like, get out of the way,
right?
That might be better. Education is also a really big part of what we do. And I would love, because Kalyn is the educator, she gets really excited when we start talking about like the education part of what we do. But I think that I don't want to speak for her, but I think that one of her favorite things about FHI is that education is infused into everything that we do. And so I think leading with education into those communities is going to be really important.
Oh, Kalyn, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit for the pandemic to end, where you can just get in front of agents and educate and teach. And do all that.
Yes, I think that will be a really great opportunity to. It's exciting for me because, as I mentioned earlier, I know that I was born to teach, and so it's exciting
for the listeners and maybe for Kevin too, because I'm not sure if he's aware that FHI is a real estate school in both Oklahoma and Iowa.
Was not aware of that. Thank you. Added to the list of businesses that you guys are putting out there. That's amazing. So then you're talking continuing ed, right? You can do continuing ed for agents, which is amazing.
Go ahead, Kalyn. Sorry.
Oh, I forgot what I was saying.
Just on the education piece. Yeah.
Oh, yes. So, so we're actually working on becoming state approved for our through our real estate commission board. And so we're able to offer those continuing education classes to real estate agents completely complimentary because we, as Brit said, we're very education focused. And so we don't want people to have to, pay or invest in those. That's a way that we can really add value to real estate agents, their careers, and ultimately benefit the client in a way that they can then pass that information along to their client when they're, showing homes and when they're having those discussions with their clients. And so I think that'll be a really valuable tool for us to help us grow, especially in those smaller communities where there is loyalty to those home inspection companies that have been around for generations. And it helps to be able for us to get out in person and to build relationships and connections with these agents, so they know who we are by name, they know our face, they know that we're available to them on a practical our boots on the ground type of level, instead of being this huge franchise where we're way at the top and totally inaccessible. So I think that is a big appeal of Forever Home Inspection, and just how we make, again, just that client care, that agent care, and building relationships, a big focus of what we do.
You guys will win them over. I mean, the warmth alone, you guys will crush it. It's, once someone meets you a couple times, I think they'll be all in for sure. Trend wise, I know the pandemic was very good, I think, for anywhere in between the coasts, because people were obviously leaving, the 500 square foot apartment or whatever in the big cities and getting more space. Do you all, like, trend wise, is Oklahoma and Iowa still kind of booming on most accounts in terms of influx of people?
Yeah, Ankeny's been in the top few cities in the nation for growth.
Okay.
We were number one for several months in the whole nation.
Yeah, the whole country.
Yeah,
They're coming to our city.
Wow.
That's good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the metro, last month, there was a little over 900 homes sold, and 7 out of 10 were new construction.
Okay.
The growth is just tremendous. It's tremendous.
And in Oklahoma, I assume I know Oklahoma City's been on fire. Tulsa's been on fire for.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like, to the agents who are actually working full time and doing this as a job, they probably all have 10 buyers to one agent right now, just chomping to find a property. So we're kind of in that same scenario where the market's kind of flipping over on its back a little bit, and it'll catch itself back up. But it's busy. I mean, no one stopped. It's just
right.
Yeah.
And hopefully in the spring, we get more people comfortable having people in their homes, showing their homes, selling their homes. So then some of that supply can catch up with the demand, because I know that just pushes prices up, makes people think they need to waive inspections, which they should never do, but still do an inspection, right?
Yeah. We're not really seeing, we haven't seen anyone waiving inspections. We've experienced a steady growth, but I would say that what month are we in? March. February quickly flipped over into a seller's market for Tulsa. And it was sort of like musical. What was that meme that you posted? It was like
our marketing
musical chairs,
director.
but someone's chasing you with fire.
Yeah, they said it was like
It's like that's what it's like.
a buyer's market is musical chairs. There's 10 chairs and there's 8 buyers. And in a seller's market, there's 8 chairs and 10 buyers. And in this market, there's 3 chairs. The chairs are lava. The floor's lava. Everyone's on fire and someone's chasing you with an axe. So like that's what it feels like in this market right now. And I was like, that's as true as it gets. It's just nothing makes sense about it.
Yeah,
So.
it's just like realtors sitting at their computer clicking refresh.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can so relate. I can so relate.
Yeah.
So
I think too, we're seeing a huge this last year. We've seen a huge increase in the number of licensed inspectors in Oklahoma. So we're always looking at that list of how many people, and then we're like, Googling their name and Facebooking them. Have they started a business yet? We're stalking people all the time.
Yeah,
it's really healthy. And so we're wondering, like, where are they? They're getting licensed, and then where are they? Were they doing this as a backup plan in case they were gonna lose their job? So that's been interesting to watch too, and not really see actual companies pop up, but to see all of these licenses become active.
A lot of people testing the waters, I've noticed from my vantage point. A lot of people just kicking the tires saying, okay, can this work? I'm going to dip my toe in. The numbers show that a third of them probably won't make it, statistically speaking. So yeah, I'm always curious where we're at with the supply and demand kind of nature of the number of home inspectors, but I don't know. As long as people are still booked out weeks, a week or 2 in advance, shows are still demand. What's next for growth? Are you even thinking that way? Guarantee you're thinking that way. What do you think of states to target, or are you thinking people first? I know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it.
I think we don't know yet.
Yeah.
I think that we are willing to have any conversation. I think that we'll first make that decision based on relationship, because partnerships are hard. The partnership that we have with Iowa, it's not perfect. But I think that we have a great deal of respect for each other, and we all 4 try to honor each other in how we interact and the decisions that we make. And we try to have really clear boundaries. And sometimes we, on my end, I'll admit that I've realized that there were things that I failed to communicate. You have it all in your mind, and then you think that everyone else can read your thoughts, and it turns out that they can't. And then that gets you into a place where there might be a misunderstanding. But I think we communicate almost every single day with Iowa. And I would say if we didn't communicate at that rate, then it wouldn't be working. And so probably those things is what I would be looking for. I will say that with this summer that we have, I doubt we will. I know that doing this with our kids at home in the summertime would be impossible. And doing it during a busy season would be impossible. So I think timing and people would probably be the thing. We did have some other people that we were talking to at the same time, and we let those folks go and build their own businesses because we didn't feel like it was the right timing and that it was the right fit. It felt sad to let people down, but I know that it was the right decision, and we wish them all the best.
Yeah.
But does that answer your question?
Yeah. Just getting in the mindset of kind of how you view it, and it just seems like a lot has to align. A lot has to kind of fall into place for something special like this to work.
There just has to be a lot of refinement. I think for if anything we learned anything bringing Iowa into the mix is that we really did have to step back, look at our processes and see these may have worked here in Oklahoma temporarily, but as we grow and we do new things and new partnerships, we have to redo them and rebuild them based on their input and our input. And we're really trying to make a viable product that hopefully by the end of this year, we can say, we can move this where we need to move it. And so we have a lot of work right now to get to that point. And I think once we get to that point and we scratch that surface, who knows where we'll be at that point. So
here's the one thing too that has probably come to light, that's the best thing that could have come to light, is that a lot of what is this business has been just living in my mind. And I've been, what 2021 Lance said, you know, what is the one thing that you want to accomplish in 2021? I said, I don't want to be indispensable with this company anymore, because you can't grow when when all of the concepts and all of the systems and all of the processes dwell in one person's mind. It all has to eventually come out in handbooks and playbooks, and oh my gosh, is that a lot of work? And it's really the boring stuff. So be prepared. My advice, if you want to scale, like, do that first. We're doing that at the same time as we are growing Iowa. So
documentation. Yep. The most boring thing in the world, but it saves you hours, like a year down the road. And we learned that the hard way too with Mike and I. It was just getting all of that out of your own brain. Kalyn and Matt, I'm curious what you all, and how long have you been in the business total?
Oh man, we're just seasoned veterans and since last August.
Okay. So I'd love to hear from each of you kind of something you've learned about this business that was just eye-opening. And it can be anything. I'm just curious, kind of like some of the most surprising learnings.
I think for me, a couple things. One was the fact that Iowa has no certification requirements. You can just go, hey, guess what? I'm a home inspector now. And I'm not saying anybody does. I'm sure I'll bet there's somebody that's done that.
Oh, some of them roll out of bed. Yeah. Throw up, hang their shingle right away. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And goodness gravy. I just can't imagine doing that. Because even though I have a really wide background and I grew up fixing everything in my home. My dad taught me everything. I call a repairman the very last, option is calling a repairman. So I felt like I know this stuff. And yeah, I think what was surprising was just how nitty gritty and detailed and, jack of all trades, master of none, but we do really need to be a master at a good bit of it, So I think that was the most surprising thing, was just, it's not just roll up to a house and go, everything looks good. There is a lot more involved than I think the majority of people on the outside realize, and the majority of home inspectors that are starting out realize. You can't just walk into a house and say, I'm going to inspect this place. The training really is key.
There's so much to it. I still think home inspections on average are underpriced by 50%. I
would agree.
I literally, 100%. And I'm biased or unbiased, you call me whatever. I still think for the value gained, for the average price to be around $360 is ridiculous. It should be double that.
Let's get it up.
Let's
there,
get it there. Yeah. I mean, I try to put out articles, videos. I'm trying to, we're shifting to doing consumer facing stuff, and it's all
starts
very
today. $800 inspection starting now. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah. Price fixing. Let's all just agree.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah. Kalyn, what I mean, I'm sure you've learned everything because it's all new to you, but what does anything jump out as to like, wow, I did not expect this industry to be X?
Yeah. So how much time do you have? No, really, I have learned a lot. There are 3 things that come to the top of my brain. I'll just work through those quickly. I would say the first one, similar to Matt, because, of the lack of certification, I think as a result of that, there's also a lack of just general education in the public arena. And similar to us, unless you're a homeowner or someone in real estate or the home inspection industry, what have you, you don't really know a lot about it, at least not the nitty-gritty details. And so one thing that I've learned, especially on like the marketing end and talking with agents and clients, is that I think a lot of the the public look at home inspectors as a commodity, if that's the right word. We're just kind of all the same. They lump us all together. And I think a lot of people are looking at, well, pricing, who's the cheapest? If I can get this home inspector over here for $200, why should I hire you for, double the price? And so I think because of that, we've spent a lot of time working on our UVPs, those unique value propositions, which is huge because we want those to be our banner that says, no, we're not a commodity. We are unique. We're different. And just coming in and raising the bar. And that would be my second thing that I've learned is that this industry is, frankly, at least in Iowa that we've seen, the standard for quality, the expectations that a lot of our fellow home inspection companies, as wonderful of people as they are, we know that they're working hard and that they're trying their best with what they know and what they have. But I think that a lot of these companies, because they're multi-generational, I think some of the processes and things that were put in place 50 years ago aren't this, they don't work the same as they do today. And so there's not a lot of growth there. They're not pivoting to serve the market today. And so that's where we really have a heart and a passion to come in and to raise that bar and to elevate the home inspection industry as a whole, to say, hey guys, we need to level up here in a big way. And so that's what's really exciting about FHI, because Brit Lance already laid that foundation. And again, because our values align there, it's really easy for us to jump on with that vision. And then I would say the third and last really big thing I've learned is, as Matt said, because we're not masters really we're masters of the home inspection itself and the report and the product. But as far as, the nitty gritty and the electrical side of things, or the plumbing or HVAC or any of the home systems, that's where we need to rely on our partners, our vendors, and really building up those relationships. So when our clients have a plumbing issue or an electrical issue or an HVAC issue, they come to us and they say, hey, who do you recommend? And so we need to be able to have those awesome partners in our back pocket where we can say, yes, we know this awesome organization who we can hook you up with, and they'll take care of you and serve you in a great way. So I'd say those are the three areas I've really learned a lot in, and they've been all they've all been, they're not necessarily negatives. They're just with every industry, there's always those nuances and idiosyncrasies about it. And so those are just the things that come to my mind. So
love it. And you can't say, but I can, but home inspectors get complacent when there's no competition and they do the bare minimum and they get lazy. And then companies come in and kind of, like you said, it's just, I look at it as an economics thing, not an emotional thing, not taking jobs from people, but just the supply and demand of quality providers in any given market. It's got to change.
Yeah. Can I piggyback on that for a second? So
please do.
Kalyn mentioned UVPs, and we've been talking about education being infused into everything that we do, but that as education has to be input into the company in order for it to be output into the community. And so one of the things that we do are when you partner with FHI or when you purchase a home inspection from FHI, I guarantee that you are getting a more educated home inspector, because we require that of our inspectors. In February, we had a company-wide training where we invited structural engineers, trainers to come teach our group, and electricians, plumbers. We
Yep,
had
we had HVAC,
realtors come and teach us about education, and it was just a blast.
Looked
And
cool.
our
I think I saw it on
inspectors-
Instagram.
Yeah,
Looked like a ton of fun.
our inspectors left just like. And then we also require, the state requires in Oklahoma and Iowa, they don't require anything. But in Oklahoma, they require only 8 hours of continuing education for a home inspector. And then in some states, you have none.
Mm-hmm.
Our inspectors, if you want to be on our team, it's required that you do 20 to 30. And we require all of our inspectors to go through an apprenticeship program.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not hitting the ground with like by themselves with a client for some time. They've got to practice their craft. And we also we're all InterNACHI certified, and they have to complete all of those advanced courses on top of the 90 hours in order to be eligible to go out into the field. And so, I don't really see where a lot of inspection companies have that as one of their UVPs, which I think is huge. I mean, that gives peace of mind when you go in to have surgery. Do you want the guy that's, fresh out of
does the bare minimum? Yeah.
And you're his first patient, and they, or does it give you peace of mind that they have to go through 4 years of residency and be basically apprentice before they can go out and provide a service where there's a great amount of risk.
And to give a shout out to Spectora, because I thought that's a great way to put the cherry on the conversation, is that Spectora and other report writing softwares, it's unthinkable now to think that people are still writing paper reports. And so, it's still a thing that's happening, but you can use Spectora like I did when I first started. And I have the sword, but it wasn't sharp, right? And I believe in today's home inspection industry, the report has not become a value proposition to the company. It's just a report. Let's get the inspection done well. Let's get that report out. Let's make it as short and condensed as possible so everyone feels good about it. We'll move on to the next client. And we are taking a completely different approach to it and saying, no, our report is what you paid for. What we poured into, the time, the effort, all the behind the scenes education goes into that. And so we really want to change this nature of, oh my God, we got an 80-page report. What are they thinking? To this is chock full of good things that I needed to know that is important for me before I purchase this home, no matter if it is a seller or buyer's market. There was just so much left undone. As we start working through it now, we will have one of the best reports in home inspection. And we're excited about that. It's a lot of work. That some of these people are doing, but it's going to get done. And I think that was just left there that no one was really taking care of.
We're just going to slide that next podcast table, and is the report your product?
You guys are already recurring guests. It's already done deal. Every good podcast has someone that just comes around every couple months and drops in on it. But I love this because you're playing the long game of education and maybe flipping the home inspection to an educational tool, something that people should like crave and look forward to, as opposed to you're going to tell me something wrong. The deal's going to fall through because of this. We have to flip that because that's truly what it is at the end of the day.
Is the house pass? And we're like, what do you pass what? It says pass fail. Who told you that?
Exactly. People still Google that. I checked Google search volume. I think a couple hundred people at least every month still search if you pass or fail a home inspection. So there's still work to be done.
Oh yeah.
Well, good. I'll write some content on that.
There you go. Boom. Everything you guys talked about, I think is going to work amazing with content. But we got to roll, guys. This is amazing. Thank you so much. This is the first of its kind doing it this way, I think, with having 4 guests on and just the dynamics. So I think this is going to be super interesting to people. So
yeah.
Kalyn and Matt, expect a bunch of phone calls. Apparently people are going to be reaching out to you now. So be ready for that.
Yeah, go to Brit and Lance.
They're busy. Leave them alone.
All right. Brit's number is all right. Well, thank you so much. You guys, this is great. Again, we'll have Brit, you're going to be a regular, of course. Because you always have so much to say. So
Well, thank you, Kevin.
so much wisdom to kick. We'll put it that way.
Thanks.
We appreciate
Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate you.
Right on, guys.